Brilliant. Move this here. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our February Cabinet meeting. I have a couple of practical issues to highlight first. We have no fire drill planned tonight, so if there is a fire alarm, please make your way out of the building in a calm and orderly fashion as guided by staff. People with mobility issues should gather in the foyer on the right-hand side as you leave the Mancroft room, near to the balustrade where assistance will be provided. Toilets are at the far end of the corridors, either side of the council chamber, ladies to the right as you leave, and gents to the left. The meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel. I'd like to just welcome Councillor Martin Schmierer, who is here on behalf of the leader of the Green Group. So item 1 is apologies. I've received no apologies. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? Councillor Packer. Thank you. Item 3, public questions and petitions. There have been no public questions or petitions. Item 4, questions to Cabinet members. There have been no questions to Cabinet members received. Item 5 is the minutes of the previous meeting on the 15th of January 2025. Can we confirm that these are an accurate record of that meeting on the 50th of January 2020? Did I say 50th? 15th of January 2025. I'll propose them. Your seconder? Yeah, okay, Councillor Hampton, thank you. We now move on to item 6, which is the We Are Norwich business plan. And I'm moving that item. And I'm proud to present the We Are Norwich business plan as set out in Appendix 1, which represents an ambitious vision for our city's future. Whilst this iteration of the plan reflects what has been agreed over the last year, it is more than just a collection of projects. It is a demonstration of the political leadership and commitment that this council has to deliver real change for the people of Norwich. Over the past year, we've listened to our residents, engaged with partners, and drawn on the guiding principles that underpin all our work. These principles, being ambitious for Norwich, listening to the city, focusing on climate, and putting equality and inclusion at the heart of everything we do, are reflected throughout the plan. As leaders, we are acutely aware of the challenges our city faces. The cost of living crisis, climate change, and economic uncertainty demand decisive action. This plan lays out how we will address these challenges head-on, balancing immediate needs with long-term aspirations. From tackling inequality in our communities to driving forward our net zero ambitions, we are clear about the outcomes we want to achieve and the pathways to get there. Crucially, this plan reflects our commitment to transparency and accountability. We are transitioning to an outcomes-based framework that will allow us to track progress and ensure we are delivering value for the people we serve. We also recognise the importance of collaboration, whether through partnerships with local businesses, community organisations, or regional stakeholders. This plan emphasises the shared leadership needed to realise Norwich's potential as a prosperous, fair, climate responsive and future-proof city. Together we can ensure that this business plan becomes a roadmap for progress, not just for the council, but for our communities across Norwich. As set out in the report, Cabinet is recommended to 1. Consider the recommendations made by the Scrutiny Committee at its meeting on the 23rd of January 2025 as they appear in Appendix 2, confirming Cabinet's agreement to accept these for the reasons cited. 2. Authorise the Chief Executive in consultation with the leader to make changes to the plan in line with the recommendations from Scrutiny and other minor amendments. 3. Agree to periodic updates on progress and performance metrics as part of quarterly Cabinet performance. 4. Note the transition to an outcomes-based accountability approach and support its phased implementation across council services. And 5. Approve the We Are Norwich business plan covering the period Q4 2024 to Q1 2026 to 27, subject to approval of the Scrutiny Committee recommendations dated 23rd of January 2025. Thank you. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Hampton, thank you. I was going to ask Councillor Wright if he wished to present the scrutiny recommendations. He isn't here to do that, so I'll pass on from that, pass over that. Does any other Cabinet member wish to speak, please? Councillor Giles.
Business plan. In relation to the accepted scrutiny recommendation on digital inclusion, I wondered what is the plan to enact that recommendation, because as a district council we don't receive any funding for digital inclusion anymore. It all goes to the county council, and how we continue to work in partnership with the county council to deliver that, given our lack of internal resources.
Who would like to answer that?
I think in which case, if nobody can answer, I think it's a recognition, and I hadn't seen the scrutiny recommendation to that effect, but I think it's a recognition that we need to be working in partnership with the county council to achieve that aim, given the lack of government funding which is given to district councils in recent years.
Okay, I think Emily can comment.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to confirm that we'll take that point away and come back with a full answer. Obviously, it doesn't sit directly in my portfolio, but there's work that we're doing around kind of our own digital strategy. And then obviously there's that community aspect to pick up as well. So we'll take that one away.
Okay. Does any other Cabinet member have a comment or question? No. If not, Councillor Schmierer, would you please ask the question on behalf of the Green Group?
Yes, gladly, and I understand that this has already been circulated to you, so you should have had sight of it. So just to read it out for everyone's benefit, having considered the corporate plan on the 23rd of January, Scrutiny Committee made 10 recommendations, 9 of which have been accepted by the Cabinet in this report. The tension is that the council budgets need to be more actively aligned with delivery, with a live model that has been talked about for the past 2 years. It is integral to the new approach, as it will mean that spending is closely aligned to priorities and is much more clearly tracked and planned. This recommendation is the only one that has been referred back to scrutiny to consider. So please could the leader tell me what the timeline for the delivery of this change is, and when can we expect to see it operational, please?
Thank you, Councillor Schmierer. I can confirm that the closer alignment of budgets with the delivery of the outcomes within the corporate plan will be achieved in readiness for the 2026-27 financial year. Okay, so we'll now move to a vote on the recommendations. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7 is the corporate performance report for Q3 2024 to 25. I will be moving this report as well. So the key performance indicators in this report have been carried over from the previous corporate plan and are under review as part of the new business planning process. For the purpose of this report, the existing KPIs have been mapped to the new priorities in the community-led plan 2024 to 2029 called We Are Norwich. The report sets out progress for Q3 and covers the period 1st of October to 31st of December 2024. Overall, performance remains steady with positive movements across 13 indicators, and a breakdown of all indicators for Q3 can be found in Appendix A of the report. So looking at improvements, there are significant improvements in 4 KPIs this quarter. 1, the percentage of corporate complaints responded to within the stated timescales has increased by 9 percentage points compared to last quarter. We continue to address issues, learn from them, and try to prevent future occurrences. It is notable that the volume of complaints received has reduced by 37.94% since Q2. Second, performance has increased this quarter for the percentage of council housing rent collected, excluding arrears brought forward, moving from red to green. The piloting of a new prioritisation system has been key in improving the collection rate. Thirdly, performance is 30.92 percentage points higher than the same quarter of last year for the percentage of customer contact that takes place through digital channels. A decrease in calls over the extended Christmas close period and customers checking the website for services such as bin collection information contributed to this. And finally, council income from investment property portfolio expressed as a percentage of target income has improved this quarter and is above target again. Last quarter, we reported that one of the council's largest tenants had gone into administration. Our tenant's company has now been purchased and bought out of administration, and this has allowed us to recover some of the debt. Turning to KPIs off target and requiring intervention, there are 3 KPIs that have reached a level where we will intervene and action is required to bring them back on track. An explanation of performance can be found in the section titled Overview of Performance Measures for Quarter 3, but includes areas such as average relet time of council homes in calendar days, number of homeless households living in temporary accommodation, and total number of private sector installation measures completed. The recommendation is it is recommended that Cabinet note progress on the key performance indicators for Quarter 3. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jones, thank you. Does any Cabinet member wish to speak? Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I think given that they haven't accepted it. They're having to do bits of work in terms of everyone's on. It's a nice family. It's likely that January. And actually, actually,
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Giles.
Thank you. I just want to offer my thanks to the Revs and Ben's team for meeting their KPIs for Quarter 3. Housing benefits, speed of processing days, 18 days against a target of, in Q3, against a target of 19.5, 17.7 days year to date. And then on council tax reduction year to date, 30.27 days against a target of 35. So that's positive to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Does any other Cabinet member wish to comment or ask a question? No. I'll move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. Councillor Schmierer, would you please ask the question on behalf of the Green Group?
Yes, gladly. Thank you very much. So the number of homeless households living in temporary accommodation has increased by a worrying 21% from the equivalent quarter last year. That's from 60 up to 73. And since 2021, it's showed an even more worrying trend, which is still steadily rising from 37 families then to 73 now. That's nearly 100% increase, a doubling of families that are eligible for housing but are forced to live in temporary homes, often away from jobs and even schools, and sometimes well away from our city. What can we do to get this figure under control once and for all, please?
Thank you, Councillor Shmira. The increase in temporary accommodation used reflects the increase in homelessness presentations being experienced by all local authorities. We continue to intensively manage temporary accommodation, use of temporary accommodation, which remains low in comparison to other local authorities in the area. Of the 73 households in temporary accommodation at the time of the report, 60 were single people and 13 were families. Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, could I just elaborate how you mentioned we compare to other councils?
Yeah.
Can you maybe like which other councils and what are the numbers there, for example? So we normally compare ourselves to cities like sort of Cambridge, Lancaster, and the such like. So maybe if you could give a comparison there, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Jones will do that.
I'm sorry, I'm still on.
I think it makes more sense if I follow up on that, given this. Yeah, it's, I suppose, just looking at this, yes, it is a significant rise. Where we sit in terms of other local authorities, we have a far higher, for example, percentage of hostel beds than Cambridge. I think we've got about 150, if that, and that is off the top of my head, but I think it's around that, more hostel beds, for example, than Cambridge does, which is a very much a comparative city. So in terms of that kind of provision to help people, there are significant things. We are constantly exploring all sorts of different options because there's lots of different groups of people with different needs. So we've got different programs in terms of people who are maybe leaving prison, in terms of where they might access our support for refugees and asylum seekers. That's a whole other section of work that I'm happy to update on at some point. And particularly in terms of resources to work with those with more specific groups with specific needs. We've got some increase in posts in the specialist support team. So there's all those. If we can prevent homelessness, it's always the best option. I think what is, and I can digress onto my more favourite subject, the private rented sector. I think it shows a lot of the challenges that are in that actually it's very difficult for people to access that area. So we're seeing the impact of that as rents continue to rise, but also the challenges of where people are trying to access properties and landlords have put increased conditions on, or who are they considering for those. It's all part of a far bigger picture. But I think I could probably talk for a long time. I'm quite keen to maybe update you individually on some of the work that's going on, because there are so many different projects in terms of things we're working on that address needs of different groups, taking that person-centred approach to housing, which I think is becoming far more the norm for us, and often there's a trauma-informed approach we're using, that we can't say there's one size fits all in terms of addressing who we have in temporary accommodation. We've got to look at those very individualised needs. Also taking into account Norwich as a flow city. So a large portion of people that we will see coming through in terms of homelessness, there isn't always that local connection. So we've got that other challenge as well. So I think there's some conversations going forward about how do we make sure that people are being supported by the right people in the right place, and how do we there is always going to be a finite resource for housing in this city, and we've got those are some of the things we need to consider. But yeah, very keen to talk to you in far more detail outside of here, because I'd probably bore everyone and go on for hours. Thank you.
I hope that was a fully comprehensive answer for you, Councillor Shmira. Okay, we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 8 is to delegate authority to award the operator contract for the halls. So may I ask, please, Councillor Kidman to move that report.
Thank you, Chair. The halls is a Grade 1 scheduled ancient monument, and it is the only venue of its kind in the city and is a vital part of the city's cultural, economic and community life. The Halls Town Deal funded project will see a transformation of the halls as a multi-venue performance space. The project includes accessibility improvements, high-quality audio-visual equipment and digital capacity, and a new cafe bar provision. The renovations and repairs will improve facilities and accessibility for performers and audiences, but without a revised operating model, it will not achieve the following objectives for the halls too. A, enhance cultural provision in Norwich and contribute to the council's priorities and the themes of the Norwich 2040 City Vision. B, ensure value for money for the council. And C, enable the council to act as a responsible steward of the building, a Grade 1 scheduled ancient monument, and maintaining it as an asset for continued public use. At the outset of this project, no option was considered off the table, but with the venue's history and place in Norwich's cultural landscape, some options were ruled out at an early stage because they could not meet the cultural objective of supporting the wider cultural provision. The council has identified that a third party or external operator is the most likely to achieve the objectives, and it is recommended that the council undertake a procurement process. This report requests delegated authority to the Executive Director of Communities and Housing and myself as portfolio holder for a prosperous Norwich to conclude the negotiations of the procurement and award the contract. This will enable an operator to be appointed in line with the completion of the construction works and avoid unnecessary delays to the reopening of the venue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kidman. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Giles, thank you. Does any cabinet member wish to speak on this? No, in which case I'll move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. Councillor Schmirer, would you please like to ask the question on behalf of the Green Group?
Yes. If the tender for an operator for the halls undertaken in July last year had not been aborted following an internal review, which found, I quote, procedural inconsistencies in the invitation, this decision would not have had to be delegated and rushed through now. What were those inconsistencies, please?
The tender process hadn't been run in accordance with the council's contract standing orders. Therefore, the council's monitoring officer requested that the process be rerun in the interests of transparency and fairness, and measures have now been put in place to ensure that this issue doesn't happen again.
Yes, I think that's working now. Thank you very much. Obviously, I shall be presenting the full speech regarding the budget at next Wednesday's council meeting, but I would like to briefly draw upon a number of statements in regard to the budget that we have before us. First of all, I think it's a remarkable achievement that over many years, despite the difficult financial position that local government finds itself, and while there's been a change of government, we still are in a difficult situation as a sector as a whole, that we've managed to produce a budget that is actually protecting our services that we provide, which are, of course, especially of importance to the most vulnerable sections of the community. And I think that both the administration and our officers deserve a great deal of credit for this. Now, you may have seen in the news yesterday that several local authorities have had to ask the government for permission to increase their council taxes above the 5% or 3% threshold, depending whether they're a county or a district council. Now, we're not in that position, nor are we in the position there's any likelihood that in the next financial year that we will come anywhere near to having to issue a Section 114 notice or appeal to the government that we are in financial distress and then we need to sell up our assets just to meet our revenue expenditure, as some other local authorities have had to do. And indeed, I noticed that a former councillor that I had the pleasure of serving on, that's Kent County Council, actually asked for permission to increase their council tax by 15%, which rather shows the financial difficulties that they are in. So we have avoided that, and I think a great deal of credit must go to the administration and to our officers. As I say, I will be going into much greater detail about the budget at the next council meeting, which is next Wednesday. But I think at the end of the day, this is my 9th budget, and once again, I would recommend approval by this cabinet. And may I propose the motion?
Thank you very much, Councillor Kendrick. Do we have a seconder for this, please? Councillor Kidman, I saw. Do I have any cabinet members who wish to speak? Okay, in which case I'll move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. Councillor Schmierer, would you ask the question on behalf of the Green Group, please?
Yes, gladly. Just one person under 18 responded to the budget survey. So what will be done to increase representation of young people going forward in this process?
Thank you very much, Councillor Schmierer, for your question. Norwich City Council is committed to ensuring that young people have meaningful opportunities to engage with and shape the future of this city. For many years, the council has worked with the Norwich Youth Advisory Board and the Mancroft Advice Project, both of which have extensive networks across schools and youth groups. By working closely with these organisations, the council ensures that young voices are represented and considered in decision making. A key example of this commitment was the extensive engagement undertaken with young people during the development of the Norwich 2040 City Vision, acting on the Mancroft Advice Project's advice. This engagement directly informed the council's community-led plan, We Are Norwich, ensuring that the priorities and successful measures reflected what young people wanted from their city. Council continues to support and act on youth-led insights. The Youth Advisory Board regularly conducts consultations, and in 2024, over 2,000 young people took part, highlighting their concerns, aspirations and priorities. This consultation exercise identified what is important for young people in the city, allowing them to have a freer voice on broader issues which matter to them and which can shape the city they live in. It is important the council is proactive in responding to these by supporting the Youth Advisory Board in turning these ideas into action. We are actively working on this, and there is a strengthening relationship between young people and the Parks team as we see to support them in progressing their Right to Play campaign, as well as linking young people into the Norwich Health and Wellbeing Partnership Mental Health Work Stream. By fostering these opportunities for genuine engagement and ensuring that young people see the tangible impacts of their input, Norwich City Council is helping to create a city where young voices drive positive change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is the 2024 to 2025 Q3 Budget Monitoring Report. Once again, can I please ask Councillor Kendrick to move this report?
Thank you very much. The position has somewhat worsened since Q2, moving to a forecast overspend of 0.98 million. Primarily, this is the consequences of the under-recovery of planning income against budget, which is the consequence of fewer applications being received, at least part owing to uncertainty about nutrient neutrality. The previously identified pressures arising from the overtly optimistic car parking budgets remains the other prime contributor to the forecast overspend. There is history of improvement in outcome as we reach the final quarter of the year, but by the same token, there may be additional expenditures incurred as a result of the need to begin to plan for devolution and local government reorganisation. So this remains a prudent position rather than an optimistic one. Investment income continues to overperform against budget, and this may continue to do so for the final quarter, depending upon the Bank of England's interest rates and inflation. Inflation has proven to be more volatile and, shall we say, sticky in the last couple of months after falling in the autumn. So the Bank of England is continuing to advise caution ahead of their next consideration of base rate the day after the next this cabinet meeting, i.e. tomorrow. I'm currently presuming that should investment income continue to improve over the final quarter, that this will help or completely offset expenditure relating to devolution and local government reorganisation, therefore protecting reserves. I would therefore ask this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kendrick. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hampton, thank you. Does any cabinet member wish to speak on this item? No, in which case I'll move to questions from political group leaders. Councillor Schmierer, would you please ask the question on behalf of the Green Party?
Yes, thank you. We are told that budget pressures from interim staffing continue. What demonstrable changes have the vacancy management panel made to date to address this pressing situation, please?
Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for your question. The total spend in respect of agency staff has reduced. The vacancy management panel is just one of the methods being used. Therefore, it is not possible to attribute a quantifiable change directly to that alone. However, the panel has a key role in challenging proposals to fill vacancies by agency or interim staff. Has made recommendations on alternative routes to permanent recruitment, thereby ensuring that agency interim route is only used when absolutely appropriate and necessary.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
This one, if that's okay. And obviously it's an issue that seems to be ongoing, and I was just wondering what can we maybe learn from other Norfolk councils and indeed other councils around the country that don't seem to be quite so dependent on interim staff but share the same sort of type of council, but also the geography of where we are based as well.
We have certain different characteristics from other Norfolk authorities, but I would slightly disagree with you in the sense that this is a sector-wide a problem, especially affecting urban authorities such as Norwich. So in no ways it's just particular to Norwich, but you can see it right across the sector in terms of, especially in terms of senior staff. We must always remember that over the last, well, more than a decade, we've seen a real decline in the standard of living of local government workers, and that obviously has been a large contributory factor to the difficulties now of employing or recruiting, I should say, permanent staff.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. We'll now move to a vote. Can I see all those in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. We now move to item 11, which is the corporate risk register. Once again, Councillor Kendrick, would you like to move the report?
Yes, this report provides an update to the Council's corporate risk register based on the position for Q3 of the financial year. That is up to the 31st of December 2024. Report recommends Cabinet to note the identified risks and the direction of travel for each of the risks. Corporate risk register shown at Appendix A, and the separate report is included on the exempt agenda. Position at the end of Q2, that is up to the 30th of September, was reported to Cabinet in November. It's not significantly changed the Council's risk profile by the end of this quarter. The environment in which the Council operates remains relatively high risk, as the financial environment is challenging both in terms of economic and funding position. As a result, the corporate risk register will continue to be monitored and progress reported to Cabinet.
Thank you. So let's find out where I am. Just got myself. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you. That's Councillor Jones. Does any Cabinet member wish to speak on the item? No. So I'll move to questions for political group leaders. Councillor Schmierer, would you like to ask the question on behalf of the Green Group?
Yes, thank you. The council is also in the process of updating its risk management policy to ensure that risks are properly managed and that there is adequate guidance. This is what is written on page 244. So the question is, what does this update look like and what are the changes being made to the current policy, please?
This work is in progress and will be reported to both the Audit Committee and to the Cabinet once it has been completed.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour?
We need to go under the line for the question under the line.
Didn't make sense.
So,
We just need to move in to take it, because we don't want to discuss that until.
yeah, okay, so we'll go below the line now.
Need to move the vote to exclude.
So I need to move that we exclude the public. Have we got the wording there? Here we are. So I move that we exclude the press and public from the meeting during the consideration of items on the grounds that it involves likely disclosure of exempt information as specified in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, or it being confidential for the purposes of Section 100A(2) of that Act. Do I have a seconder, please, Councillor Hampton? Okay, so we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move on to adoption of the Statement of Community Involvement 2025. I will move the report. So an SCI is the code of practice for involving people in planning decisions. This includes both planning applications and plan making. SCIs are required under the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act. A report was brought to SD Sustainable Development Panel in September and Cabinet in October last year with revisions to the Statement of Community Involvement, asking for authorisation to consult. The public consultation took place between the 18th of October and the 1st of December. In total, 6 comments were made on the document. Changes to the SCI following the consultation were mostly minor and included the correction of typographical errors and adding information on how the SCI can be obtained in different formats. This is the first test of the Get Talking Norwich platform in the planning team. Fewer responses were submitted via this platform compared to email responses. However, we were able to see how many people looked at or engaged with the document, even if they didn't choose to comment. This is summarised in paragraph 8 of the report. The planning team have seen the value in using this digital platform. However, the SCI sets out clearly that alternative measures will continue to be used going forward to ensure inclusivity and accessibility of public consultations. The planning team will continue to determine the most appropriate consultation methods on a project basis, being mindful of our obligations under regulations. And the Cabinet in the paper is recommended to adopt the 2025 version of the SCI. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hampton, I saw. Thank you. Does any Cabinet member wish to speak on the item? No. So I'll move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. So Councillor Schmierer, I believe you have a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. To this important consultation on the statutory code of practice, in how as we as a council involve the community, there were just 2 responses from individuals that can be noted on page 292 and only 6 in total, the other 4 being from organisations. One of the individuals asked for more such information in digital form, and one pointed out that an acronym was being used without explanation. Does the Cabinet member consider this extremely low level of response, that's 0.0001 of the population, show that our community involvement through our current consultation methods is working?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Schmierer. The level of response received to a single niche consultation should not be taken as an indicator of the Council's overall effectiveness at consultation and engagement activity. The reality is that the nature of the topic and the level of public interest will ultimately drive the level of response, as can be seen by the budget consultation, which attracted over 2,000 responses. The consultation for the update to the Statement of Community Involvement utilised multiple engagement methods, including publication on the website, direct emails to the Planning Policy Consultation Database, having hard copies available at City Hall and the Millennium Library, and for the first time the use of the Get Talking Norwich platform. Planning consultations must follow strict regulations on how to consult, with whom and for how long. The city's SCI and existing planning consultation practices aim to involve as much of the local community as possible, whilst having regard for our statutory obligations and balancing resources. In addition, whilst a total of only 6 responses were received, the Get Talking Norwich page received wider engagement with 73 visits to the page and 15 downloads of a one-page summary document and the full SCI document. The use of the acronym SCI was explained in full within both the consultation documents and the updated SCI itself. Get Talking Norwich was used to seek more ways to actively engage within the framework required for planning consultations, which is very different to other consultations. The consultation is an outlier compared to other consultations and engagements that took place on Get Talking Norwich between January and November 2024. 36 consultation and engagements were hosted on Get Talking Norwich, ranging from playground improvements to policy changes. The platform has received 18,100 visits in that time, of which 13,100 stayed on the platform long enough to be aware of the project, 7,700 who were informed, and with 2,600 actively engaging in the projects. The most recent budget consultation alone received 2,176 responses. You got a supplement?
I do. Thank you very much. And it's interesting you mentioned about the budget consultation, because obviously there was a question that I asked about that earlier, about how few, for example, young people were involved in that particular consultation, and also just more generally about these online consultations. And I'm wondering if there's a way that this council will be looking to improve public participation in democracy in something a little bit more radical, such as things like citizens' assemblies, please.
I think we've said in the past that we're not in favour of citizens' assemblies, and I think clearly we have a online and consultation process and other forms of consultation, which actually are very successful in attracting quite a large response rate. Clearly, there will be some consultations, as I say, a niche consultation, which might not attract the public interest. We can't force the public to take an interest in the statement of community involvement. And as you see from other forms of consultation, we have improved the level of engagement, and there are some quite large figures there, quite large numbers of people responding. Of course, we're not complacent, and we always will want to improve our consultation rates, but I don't think we're looking at a citizens' assembly. Okay, so we'll now move to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. So we now move on to the Greater Norwich 5-year infrastructure investment plan, and I will remove the report. So Cabinet, since signing the city deal with government in 2013, the City Council has pooled 80% of its SIL income with Broadland and South Norfolk to form an infrastructure investment fund. Infrastructure is jointly planned with the County Council and neighbouring districts, and the fund covers some of the costs through grants and supported borrowing. Decisions are made by consensus through the Greater Norwich Growth Board and signed off by the district cabinets. It's a unique partnership that has been celebrated as an exemplary model of joint working by the government's planning agency service. A joint infrastructure investment plan is produced that provides the financial information about the funds and underpins the decisions to allocate money to new projects through the annual growth programme. It is updated every year and brought to Cabinet. The 2 projects that were sponsored by the City Council were successful and are in the annual growth programme within the plan. First, access and biodiversity improvement underpinned by natural flood management at Lion Wood, the only ancient woodland in the city. And secondly, Norfolk Wildlife Trust's project at Sweetbriar Marshes to create facilities for school parties and people with disabilities at the northern gateway to the site. The plan also includes support for the establishment of a School of Oral Health at UEA and improvements to Earlham Library. Cabinet, I recommend the approval of the plan and note that the funding for Lion Wood and Sweetbriar Marshes are included in the budget papers for the capital programme, which you have already seen. So do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Kidman, thank you very much. Does any cabinet member wish to speak? Councillor Giles?
Yes, I probably shouldn't speak in the capacity as a ward councillor at Cabinet, but I was very pleased to see the investment going into Limewood. I'm conscious residents in the ward I represent have suffered some significant flooding issues in recent years, so very positive to see this investment coming in.
I think it's perfectly reasonable to speak as a ward councillor at Cabinet. I've done it myself. Yeah. Yes, of course. Okay. So I'll now move to, if no other member wishes to speak, I'll now move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. And once again, Councillor Schmierer, would you care to ask the question on behalf of your group, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Councillors and communities in Norwich City Centre are keen to use this SIL funding, this community infrastructure levy funding, to create new green spaces in the central area for serving population growth in the city centre, thus reducing pressure on existing green spaces and increasing green infrastructure for delivering a range of benefits. New green spaces in the city centre would certainly support these objectives and the objectives that you've outlined of this infrastructure investment funding, the IIF. And according to the plan on page 19, the IIF provides funding for strategic projects which support the planned growth in Greater Norwich. It is intended to offset the impact of growth on communities through the delivery of a variety of infrastructure measures. Priority is given to the areas which have experienced the most growth. So will the council commit to helping elected members to achieve this ambition, please?
Thank you, Councillor Schmierer. The quality, quantity and distribution of green spaces in the city centre is important for the well-being of city centre residents, wildlife and the attractiveness of the city to visitors, and this needs to reflect the growing population. The IIF is funding improvements to Castle Gardens, which will follow the completion of the Castle Keep project. Future priorities for establishing and improving green spaces are being shaped by the production of the Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure Strategy and the City Council's Parks and Green Spaces Strategy. Elected members have been able to respond to the consultations on these green infrastructure strategies. These documents will inform the annual update of the Greater Norwich Infrastructure Plan and support decisions about which projects to submit for IIF funding. Projects that are mentioned in the plan are much more likely to secure funding through the Infrastructure Investment Fund. The creation of new green space in the densely developed environment of the city centre often relies on development, and our planners seek to negotiate this based using our development plan policies. An example is the new small riverside space that was created next to the city wall as part of the St James Quay development. The Anglia Square development will feature roof gardens and a well-planted square on the north-south pedestrian and cycle route that will extend St George's Street to Edward Street. And the Nelson Hotel site presents a significant opportunity to create new publicly accessible green space. Okay, thank you. So we will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Item 14 is the interim transfer of health and safety responsibilities. Could I ask Councillor Packer, please, to move the report?
Thanks, Mike. I'm pleased to present this report, which seeks the Cabinet's approval to amend the current health and safety policy to reflect the management practices that have been in place since September 2024. These arrangements are working well and have now been in place for a number of months, ensuring that there has been consistency of senior leadership focus in this important area. However, it is now appropriate that the health and safety policy is updated to reflect the working practice. So on that basis, I would like to move the amendments to the policy as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Packer. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Hampton, thank you. Does any Cabinet member wish to speak on the item? No, I'm seeing shaking heads. I'll move to questions from political group leaders that have been sent in advance. Councillor Schmierer, would you like to please ask your question on behalf of the Green Group?
Yes, thank you very much. So the question is, until the post holder's departure in September 2024, the overall management of health and safety was monitored and overseen on behalf of the Chief Exec by the Chief Executive Director for Development and City Services. There is now a requirement to transfer those corporate health and safety responsibilities previously held started this post to other posts until such a time as a new post holder is created. And that's a quote from the report. It seems that no one has had overall top-line responsibility for health and safety for at least 5 months. Who has been fulfilling this role, and why has it taken so long to start to arrange to transfer the responsibility, especially when you consider the former post holder gave their notice in April 2024?
Thank you, Councillor
Packer.
Schmierer. When the Executive Director for Development and City Services post became vacant in September, the health and safety responsibilities, as defined in the Corporate Health and Safety Policy associated with this role, were split between the remaining Executive Directors for Communities and Housing and Resources. So this report simply updates the health and safety policy to reflect the practice that is already in place.
Thank you, Councillor Packer. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Did you have a supplementary? Thank you. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 15 is the HMO licensing policy. May I ask Councillor Jones, please, to move the report? When you found a microphone that works.
It's really just me, so it should go home. Thank you. So I'm really pleased to bring forward this item seeking Cabinet's approval to consult on the revised HMO licensing policy. It's an important element of our ongoing commitment to improve and enhance regulation of the private rented sector. The proposed revisions to the policy will ensure ongoing compliance with national legislation whilst maintaining housing standards, tenant safety and responsible property management. It will benefit both tenants and landlords by setting out much clearer expectations of the standards required and by providing greater clarity on the application process. As with any policy, it needs to adapt and we want to move forward. And the scale of HMOs in the city is something that we now have a far better understanding of than when we first introduced this policy after the 2018 legislation change. And I'm sure forthcoming legislation will mean we'll need to return to it again and bring it back for consultation. And these changes are part of an ongoing process of refinement. This policy contributes to Cabinet's objectives to improve housing conditions and reduce unsafe properties, tackling rogue landlords while supporting the responsible ones, and ensuring financial sustainability for enforcement without burdening public funds. Whilst I've always been vocal in my desires to explore the use of additional regulatory powers to drive up standards across the private rented sector, I'm pleased having this back in my portfolio this year to ensure we can drive progress forward. At this stage, the policy does not seek to yet introduce additional licensing for HMOs, but as Cabinet colleagues will be aware, I've asked for provision to be made in the new budget, which we've already looked at, for a stock condition survey to be undertaken for private rented properties, including HMOs across the city. This critical work will provide us with an evidence base to make informed decisions around additional and/or selective licensing and any other initiatives that would help us achieve our goals of securing high quality and safe properties for private renters. And I look forward to being able to bring those as updates to Cabinet, as I did last month, I think it was. When we got 25% of our residents living in the private rented sector and relying on that, it's important this remains an issue that's front and centre for us. We've seen some really positive changes within the private rented team, and we've got the new ITT system that's moving forward. These are all steps forward that will put us on a really good footing, that when we've got that evidence base, we'll make an informed decision that is going to have the outcomes we need for residents. So I am delighted to move the recommendations set out in this report, which will ask that we consult on these changes. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Hampton, thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this item? No, so I'll move to questions from political group leaders. Councillor Schmierer.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I understand it, this proposed policy means we do fewer inspections, but even then we are going to struggle, it seems, with the arrival of new legislation. And we are also struggling to recruit officers in that team. Do we have enough capacity to do private housing enforcement?
Councillor Jones.
into the where we've got the highest likelihood of balance. That is to affect over. They want to make sure that those things that certain properties are more likely actually want to pay those agreements. Just going on how they come into the inbox. So it's better to use professional experts to make those decisions. The present private sector is a 1H those special officers are enforcement one of which is the HMO tax. The tertiary officer is licensing as recruitment takes a challenge from focusing on pricing initiatives. Third section is actually engaged in the representation project to review most operational processes required. The upcoming implementation process by clear evidence basis to adjust partner, ensure both resources and are able to meet evolving market. And we truly want to say that part of the organization allows that ministry and that cost saving is we can spend more justify what we're charging out for because they don't want it. So that has to be catch on them. So we've got that so we have that cost. And the license processing, we can save money as a digitizing longer term. Then actually that then got to be that ultimately don't want to out and just that's the crucial thing. And they've got to be so part of digitization that and having that really secure framework in place then allows for us to build service because we've got to have that strong foundation to that. Not going on this again, not things that foundations not going to get to be scale each challenges cases. And I'll probably say once we don't like them.
Thank you. Once again, another very full and comprehensive answer. Thank you for that, Beth. We'll now move to the vote.
Sorry.
All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. And then item 16, town deal funding update. This is the Blackfriars Hall roof and mechanical and electrical upgrade. Councillor Kidman, would you like to move the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The Hall's Town Deal funded project provides improvements that ensure the transformation of the halls as a multi-venue performance space. The project includes significantly increased digital capacity, high quality audiovisual equipment, improved sound transfer and a new cafe bar provision, as I have explained already. Along with these improvements and a major redesign enhancing the flow and accessibility for the users of the halls, this will make the halls a modern, fit for purpose performance venue. In addition to the town deal funding, the council has committed further investment into St Andrews Hall, including works to the roof, structure and glazing, which will ensure the building's longevity as a key cultural asset for the residents of Norwich. During the planned work, surveys have also been undertaken while scaffolding has been in place around Blackfriars Hall. Just waiting for Councillor Shamira there. This has allowed for a more detailed investigation of the roof than was possible from a ground survey. The survey has identified alterations to the roof carried out in the early to mid-1900s, which had created an environment that trapped moisture within the timber structure. Fortunately, the issue has been caught early, and through isolated upgrades and strengthening works, we're able to extend the roof's lifespan for an estimated 15 to 20 years. The funding for these works are included in the council's budget for next year. In order to progress the additional works in a timely manner, this report is requesting approval to delegate the award of a contract modification for the works, subject to the budget being approved by full council on the 12th of February 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kidman. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Jones, thank you. Does any cabinet member wish to speak on this item? No. So there'll be no questions from political group leaders. There are none left anyway here. So we'll now move straight to a vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you for your time.